Is it?
Yes, I'm like, well, I think, I think some of it's coming through. Hang on, I'll tag you.
Yeah.
I think some of
Yeah.
it's some of it. Can you hear me all right? I think some of it's coming through. The external, the weather. I just walked into town, got some water, got a couple things I needed, and yeah, it's hot, it's humid, but I think some of it's coming from inside of
Yeah, I
me.
was gonna say, yeah, it's not just the weather. It's
No, it's not. I mean, I'm literally sitting here sweating. My bones are sweating. It's like I'm just dripping. But okay, let's see here. Did it work? There it goes. Okay, I got you. Boom. Okay. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to wipe my face. Well, I'm sure if it's not sweat coming off my face, it'll be tears before too long. So yeah, we're
But
we're live. This is kind of to me, it kind of speaks to the energy now, which is like, these things happening in the spontaneous. And like I know you do shows and Cosmic Gateway, you put a lot of stuff together. I mean, I try to stay on top of it, but so sometimes I get the linear part of it wrong. But yeah, you put so much stuff together. So there's like these schedules involved and putting these logistics together, and that just seems like it's just gone to shit. Like,
I
like
was on
I,
a I was on a good wicket until halfway through this week.
well, yeah, okay. So for me, it started, I think, 2 days ago. So today's what? Over here, it's
Mhm.
Friday, Thursday, Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday I did a impromptu soul jams with my brother Ty, and he's one of those guys that's you don't see him rattled very often. He's a deep astrologer. He's the only astrologer I can actually listen to, because it's got kind of that, hit you between the eyes kind of message, and not this cookie, cookie cream and sugar, hey, this is what you are. Da, da. But so yeah, so I got on about this time 2 days ago with him, and kind of like today, just like it's been almost like a groundhog day where, I'm on my back, either sleeping or communing, I would say 12 to 16 hours a day. So if I'm sleeping 8 or sometimes 10, sometimes there's more, but there's at least, 2, 4, sometimes 5 or 6 hours. I'm laying on my back, staring at the ceiling, like, can I just close my eyes and go to sleep? What is going on? I'm not like freaking out, but so the one thing about doing a lot of shows, which I'm just now getting back into after a couple of years of, like doing, say, a couple of week, is I can always feel like what's going on through the transmissions of the shows. So, um, yeah, so that's even like the way we kind of reconnected through the Jenny show. Now you and Jenny, you can see the ripples, right? And so Ty gets on, Mr. Calm and cool and collected, and I believe his birthday, by the way, is very near yours. He's a Pisces,
Oh.
and he's fucking Pleiadian, although he's many other things. But anyway, he goes, I said, "How you doing, man?" He goes, "It's been a hell of a week." It's the middle of the week, so I know he's talking about the last few days. And then last night I did a weekly show, which is the Soul Ghostbusters radio show with your country mate, Liara Covert, who's tapped in like you. And it was extraordinary. Like it took like everything out of me. Um, and I had to like go for a walk, and I had to go to the beach, and then I came home and took a shower, and I was like, damn, just like sat under the shower just like this, and then I shaved, which I hadn't done in like 2 months. I don't look like a werewolf anymore. But yeah, so I don't know, the things that I saw. Oh, by the way, yeah, so I saw, um, after the show. Well, let me just retrace the steps, for those people, just so they can kind of connect the dots. So I did a show with Jenny Schultz, and we've done a few. And I did one with her 3 or 4 weeks ago because I saw some stuff she's putting out. She's incredible. She's like you. And so I said, yeah, come on. Yeah. So she came on, and then I saw you in the comments like, yeah, I want to talk about parallel lives and secret space. And I'm like, yes, you know. And then we had the show, and scheduled this one as well. And then I think a few days ago, you and her had a show, and it's an incredible show. I think it runs about an hour and 10, hour and 20 minutes. And I've been watching like 20 minutes at a time, and just, you know, the laughter, the tears, the recognition. And I saw when I put it, I forgot to put up the promotion or the promo for this show till it was like 2 hours ago. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. What timeline are you on? It's October the 24th in the Northern Hemisphere. You got a show in 2.5 hours. Put up the post, and I did. And Edwards, Edwards, who I'd love to get on the show, and I'm sure she'll come on at some time. She put up a post. She put up something, said, "Oh, I'm looking forward to this. I love watching you guys together." And I'm like, "Yeah, you know, Alicia's really special." And she's wrote back. I don't know it verbatim, but she was like, "Yeah, because she makes me realize I'm not going through this by myself." And I really feel like that's the message. Like the message is people telling their stories, a lot like our roots and what are our ancestor aspects, uh, you know, defying any type of fuckery or bullshit or secret space or any of these other things that we're just starting to get our hands around, our arms around, and people say, "Yeah, me too." You know, like this is the real stuff. You know, so you and Jenny were, I mean, yeah, Jenny, y'all were like tapping into that, and I also want to say too that you know, there's been a lot of talk about the feminine and the masculine in this whole evolution that we've all gone through on or about 2012. And I really feel like the feminine voice, not just in women, but in men, is what is that I'm referring to that is providing this real-time code, because not only does it carry the voice of everything that we've been through, but it carries a voice of everything we've been through, which is far beyond what we thought we've been through. It involves not just a past life, but parallel lives. And I've had so many run through my head in the last week and a half. I mean, you know, really, I would say since the middle of last month when, you know, kind of when this all kind of started. So, but yeah, so I don't know. How do you connect the dots, but to speak the truth? And, you know, the last thing I'll say is I remember when I was doing a series, and I don't know what it was called. It was 3 years ago. And it was something to the effect of tell us what you've never told anybody. And you came on and you cried. I cried with you. And you talked about this kind of hard to comprehend from a human perspective, dominant human perspective, which was this cycle of gestation with women. Um, and I was so moved, and I'll tell you why. And I've told this story probably 15 times on the shows. I have this friend, Alisha Braché, and she's been doing this all, you know, blah, blah, blah. And she was told, start a blog. And then the next thing you know, she's, you know, doing that, and then ends up in a room with a bunch of women that, you know, and so everyone's relating to it. And then the main thing that stood out for me, that stands out for me, and there's so many things, don't get me wrong, but the one thing, and it's not just the story of the words, it's the energy of it. It's never left me. It's made such an impact on me. And that was when you said that one night you were laying in bed, you know, minding your own business, and you know how that goes. The universe likes to bring its characters in and fuck with you. And these mantids walk in, and they're like, "Hey, we just no disrespect, mantid aspects, because we know you're a very high frequency. But hey, Alisha, we don't want you to worry because we got your back." And then you said to me one of the most profound things, and I know I've said some things to the universal before, but I thought this was so ballsy. You're like, "Yeah, but what about my emotional health? What about my emotions?" And they're like, as highly intelligent that they are, they said, "Oh, we didn't figure that in." Well, you can't figure that in because it takes being boots on the ground to do that. And I really feel like the reason that I'm bringing this up right now, and I didn't do this premeditatively, but is because this is where we're at now. It's our code, it's our choices, it's our memories coming back. It's what we do with those things. And the only way to work this shift out is to talk about it. And as we talk about it, just like Emma Edwards said on that post, she said, Alicia makes me understand it's not just me. And I think that's really what it is, because we all think we're weird. And based on this world, which is fucking weird, we're not the fucking weirdos. But yeah, I love that story. It's been one of the great impressions upon me, in the work that I've done the last 13, 14 years. Thank you for
Oh,
coming back in. I love you.
you, Todd. You know what? What a beautiful segue. Can we talk about the man? I know that we've got so much to unpack about like the tears and the trauma and the like the what the fuck is happening this week. But can we maybe just give voice to the mantis because they've been coming hot.
Yes.
Like,
Yes, please, whatever you want to talk about, I'm here to witness and participate and facilitate, because I know we're on the right track. So
okay,
please,
so
yeah.
it's popped up probably in the last couple, no, I would say in the last month. I've had a handful, not many, but I've seen a trend in my work where there's a handover happening. There's this, and it's like the change of the guards. And I think that's happening in so many different facets, but I just this one facet, and I want to talk to the gray experience that I had about the technology that's popped up again this week. And I think it's been part of the release and the emotional aspect if we're looking at it from a multidimensional aspect. But I've seen this handover happening between one facet of mantic beings that are, I would call them maybe the workers, like I wouldn't say that they're the high ones that I've had the interactions with. They have a brown color to them. They're not green. And that's I, everything for me is color. So when they're kind of like the beigey brown color, they're the ones that kind of they'll do a task, whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. It's like they are very task focus oriented. And from what I'm understanding is as we're unraveling these matrix versions of ourselves and we're making this huge transition right now, there's been this handover. And what I'm seeing is as I'm dismantling all this technology, those the higher manta beings, the ones that work with the organic DNA, are stepping and going, we take over from here. We're actually overseeing this upgrade of human 2.0. You've done your job and helped with, the expression of duality and all the fuckery that has been the implants and the technology and the secret space program and the grays and all the meddling and all the bullshit. Because I mean, I've been experimenting on it since I was a child, and so many others have. But there's this handover that's happening right now where there's these more evolved mantis beings that are light green color. And they are master geneticists. And I think there's aspects of ourselves that are, in those groups. And they're the ones that are like, we're helping this organic technology of the transformation of the ascended version of human come online. We're not meddling, we're facilitating and overseeing and supporting where we can. But they're not great with emotions. It's not their forte. But they're great with like DNA and coding and but the human shit, we need our soul brothers and sisters to help work that out.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of, you hear this over the years, and I think maybe a lot of people can identify with it as we go through these, up until a month ago, I'll say this, these timeline shifts within the same dimension. And so you have the foundational experiential element of it, which is the human quotient, which is what you're referring to, and what they have a challenge to understand, and maybe through the code that we're providing, they begin to understand, and then we become integrated even a fuller 0 point. But you would hear people talk about, wow, I upgraded. And it's weird because I don't have any emotions. I mean, I'm sitting in a situation right now. Both my parents, they're 86 and 89. My mother took a bad fall 3 or 4 weeks ago. I was scheduled to go back to the U.S. My soul came in and said, "No, you're going to sit right where you're at for the next couple of months. We can't be precise, but you just need to." And I did. I found a place and and just locked in and got a mattress and my computer and everything. My Starlink, and so I went to work. But it was a lot like that. I intended to go back to assist, but the depth of the information coming in and the respect for the new information coming in, even though it's atypical and unconventional. Yes, do you want to go care for these people that you love? But my soul came in and said no. And so there's this element of like, wow, do I have a am I turning into a mantis? So I think there's something relevant to that. And the fact that you're saying they're stepping in now, the kind of the feel that I get from it, and I'm not saying this is the gospel truth. I'm just saying, as I listen to my sister, who I know I'm deeply connected to at a probably more than a monadic level, that they said okay to the light green grays and to the this and that. You guys, you take these initiatives and you go make these things happen, and you work on Alicia, say in this case, over the years of her life, and now we're going to step in. So now it's game time now. That's kind of what I feel. So I don't want to take you off your, your stream, but so keep going. But yeah, I just wanted to offer that.
Look, I personally have never. I've seen the lower manta beings in sessions. I haven't. I mean, maybe they have been meddling with me. I wouldn't put that off the menu, but my experience has always been with the higher expression ones because I know that they're a co-facilitator in helping bring through newer children. That's their main overseeing role, and that's been very loud in my reality of late around these new children and how they're talking and how they're preparing, and they want to come through as we make this shift, but they're like, it's too chaotic now, it's not time. But I've been remembering more and more of this period where I kind of walked the new earth for numerous months. And I was, this is, it's kind of came up. I was talking to a friend this morning and it came up and I was like, oh, I feel like I need to share this. I've never shared this before because so many things from that experience just seem so crazy. But that's kind of the level of where we're moving into. And now I feel more comfortable of like just sharing. So when I was having that experience, I was communing with nature unlike I've ever done before. And at the time, I would share small things with people who are quite close to me, and their response would be, "Who the f do you think you are, like Dr. Doolittle?" Because I was having all these insects or animals come into my home, and I was communing with them. This was extraordinary. Like I would have a dragonfly fly into my house, and I couldn't get it out, and I'd walk up to it, I'd put my hand, and it would jump on my hand, and it would start talking to me. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You talked about the cats, but I still have these photos and videos of these experiences. And one day I was out walking in this new reality and I looked down, and there was this mantid on like an actual mantid being on the on the plant where I was walking past, and I stopped and I looked at it. It was the most vibrant, and I put my hand out, and he jumped up on my hand, and we sat there, and I had this conversation with him for quite some time, and I knew that it was the consciousness of those higher green manta beings that was channeling through that being in that moment. And he said to me, and this is really this is like ties into where we're at, I feel. I got quite emotional, of course, because I'm highly emotional. But he said to me, congratulations, you've now reached the frequency that you need to embody the new earth energy, the code, and also to be the expression of the vessel to bring through children. Congratulations. And I cried. I like, it was so overwhelming. I was like, oh my God, you know, that feeling of like elated, like, oh my God, I've done it. I've done it. I've reached it. And I said, and he said, but the masculine connected to, it was more of an external, haven't quite reached the embodiment of that code. So it's still going to be a while. And I said, okay. I said, is there anything I can do? And he said, there is an end date to the secret space program, and that will change everything. When the consciousness of those soldiers, of those people that you're connected with, that are highly involved in this process, will end their contracts and come back, that's when they can embody the code. And I was given a date, and this date keeps coming up over and over and over again. And I'm a bit apprehensive to share that, but we'll say it's toward the end. It's after an equinox point at the end of March. And I and that's when I got this is and I when it came to it, because I was existing in that higher timeline, I had this celebration day of the returned soldiers because all the consciousness was coming back and the programs were ended, and that means we could just get on with the creation of the new reality and all the beauty that that involves. And now, as we're kind of at the pointy end of where this reality is literally dying, the literally dying in so many ways, so many expressions of that. I feel like the masculine aspect of me, and this is fully internal, is literally dying, and this has been an ongoing process. And I kind of laughed to myself of like, yeah, I was very focused on looking at the divine union aspect of it, and it's quite complicated in my journey. It's multifaceted, but it's all come back into me, and I'm like, oh, my masculine is what's happening in the right side of my body, what's happening in the breakdown of my reality and all my distortions is a reflection of what's happening collectively. And it all ties into this process. And I keep getting told, watch how your body heals and transforms, which connects to the mentor and what they're overseeing, as to the shift in the masculine energy template to come into equilibrium. And that is the game changer. Oh, God.
Yeah.
My body's
Yeah.
reacting to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, my
Yeah.
memories are reacting to that. And the memories are in the muscles and somatic, right? I mean, so it reminds me of when I was in the eighth grade, so I would have been 14, and I really started to excel, at least, in that environment in basketball. And so I realized that, I was at a point where I needed I don't know, I guess my soul moved me. To me, I look back at it now. So, in that game, I'm right-handed. You can dribble better with your right hand, and your left hand has to learn more, and you shoot with your right hand, and you pass with your right hand primarily. And I started to work with my left hand. And so by the time the ninth grade year started, I had a whole different element, and I didn't understand it at the time. But
Uh-huh.
the left hand, I could shoot with my left hand out to 8, 10 feet, and it created this whole higher aspect of me in the physical on the basketball court. Let's just put it that way. So this came back just very recently, and it goes along the lines of what you're talking about, because since about March, I've had things happen to my body that I've been very aware of, that were not just, oh, this is what happened. You fell on a rock walking through the rocky streets of Mexico and you landed on your right side, but it was my eye, it was my shoulder, it was my elbow, it was my arm, it's my hip, it's my leg. The reason I'm bring, the reason I'm bringing this up, because they were all on the right side of the body. And at some point, I realized that because of my hyper focus on the
Mm-hmm.
feminine from
Mm-hmm.
the old dimension, from the conditioning, I was missing the strength of the feminine. So then this memory comes back about me in eighth and ninth grade.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically like, hey, when you get up in the morning, I don't want you to brush your teeth with your right hand, brush it with your left hand. I want you to
Ah.
pick up your
Oh.
fork with your left hand. I want you to, do things with your left hand that you've normally done with your right hand. And
Mm-hmm.
what ended up happening, to make a long story short, and I really feel like this is very connected because I think what's happening, and it's going to probably be seen more if I'm accurate, in the feminine because they've been leading the way in the flesh. These groups have been 80% feminine, you
Yeah.
know, and so on. Is that in the process of trying to find ourselves, the last line of separation is the battle of the sexes, so to speak. And so we put this onus on the other side, which we think
Mm.
is not us.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Seriously, we put the
Yeah.
onus on the other side and we lose sight of their true divine nature. So what's happened to me, I would say over the last month in fits and spurts. I'm not saying I'm there. I'm not fucking
Yeah.
Buddha. All right. But what I found, what I have found is like, for instance, I'll just give you an example. I had some serious back problems from like 30 to almost 50. And so I'm very, very sensitive to when things start to kind of misadjust down there, like in my coccyx area, in that space of your lower back, lower spine or tailbone. And I noticed I was walking through town and I start to have these twinges. And of course, they're on the right side of my body. At that point, I'm thinking, oh shit, man, this could be devastating. I could be limping, whatever the case is. And then my feminine side would come in and say, no, let me lead, let me put the weight on me, kind of thing. Uh, and it will balance out if you can do that. And so that's what started to happen. I don't know if you heard me. I think I just cut out.
Mhm.
That's weird. That's our energy. Can you hear me? It's crazy how we start talking about things and then the internet.
Mhm.
Oh, can you hear
Ugh.
me? Could you hear any of that? Damn, I think it's on your end. It doesn't matter. Oh yeah, it must have been. So yeah, I mean, it's this weird thing that's happening, and to me, it's more doses of um, humble pie. Where we have had this thing where we've um, over identified with things within ourselves, roles, labels, etc. But we've also over identified the external with being the causation of things. And so, if the masculine and the feminine are the last line of separation, then it would only make sense to me that those things come into congruence. And this is why I was mentioning this to her because of the mantid thing and the mantid aspects that had communicated to her openly identified and told her that um, we don't have an emotional quotient. And I love the way that she stood her ground, and they told her everything's going to be all right, and um, and she said, yeah, but what about my emotional health? What about my emotional quotient? What about that? Have you thought about that? And they said, no, we haven't. So to me, that's a very feminine thing. You think that the masculine is, or we feel, or we've been told that the masculine is the action. Uh, the feminine obviously taps it in, brings in the channel, but it's the masculine part of us that almost like pulls forth or calls forth those things that we'll do with that information. And that's kind of how I see it. She's back. Yeah, yeah. And she's gone again. But yeah.
I'm here. Sorry. I heard everything, but my internet just had a
Did you
meltdown.
really? Did you really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but that's where I saw the connection was because you know, you would think, or I would think that because to me, the feminine part of us brings it in, right? It
yeah.
brings in that thing. It's the higher, we call it the higher chakras or whatever you want to call it, women's intuition. And that the masculine then takes that information and puts it into play. It's almost like calling for, okay, now that we have this connection, what are we going to call forth in this level of intelligence, this level of merging? What are we going to create?
Mhm.
And so to me, it's backwards. So like your thing with the mantid, that whole conversation to me was like, oh my God, that's what it is. What it is the emotions. And what do women say about men? You don't tell me about your emotions, da, 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 da. But what is that really reflecting about them? So we're on this together kind of thing. And yeah, the emotional quotient in terms of initiating new earth, new universe, new creativity, new life, whatever is the element. And if somebody wants to identify that with our feminine or not, it doesn't matter because the fact is we've been talking about this. How do you feel? How does
Yes.
it feel in your bones? We start this show and I'm telling you, I'm sweating my ass off. Well, where's it coming from? It's coming from my bones. Like I'm sweating like I'm in the jungle, you know? But it's because I would just say, like as an example, because we're about to come together. We're both disheveled, quote unquote. We're
Yeah.
both like, okay, do I even want to do this? And boom, we jump in and go. And then everything starts to flow. So yeah. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's so beautifully put. And that's exactly what I feel is happening. You know, I feel like I've neglected my own masculine energy for so long. And that's why it's showing up so loudly in my body. And it's a combination of so many things. It's like I looked around at all the masculine, the men in my life that I hold so dear, and like none of them are doing well. I'm not gonna lie, like it's a shit show. And I have a very soft place in my heart for the like I'm like this constant cheering on for the masculine. I think in some expressions, I think my soul is probably more masculine oriented than it is feminine. And I just have, you know, I grew up with brothers, I grew up with male cousins, I grew up with a whole bunch of male friends. Like it's just been part of my, you know, I relate to men. Um, and then I think I've gone all this way into the feminine because of all, you know, the work that I do and the, you know, you know, communing and the intuitive. So anyway, this experience of like, I had this absolute meltdown of like, well, no, not a meltdown, a continuation, a series of continuation meltdowns that looks like this horrific crying, like for days. And then I come good. And in one of these processes, I was like, I realized that it was the ability of not being able to help those that I love. Like the feeling completely out of control, hands off the wheel. You can't do anything. This is an initiation that others have to go through and you can't fix it. I'm a fixer, right? That's what I've done all my life. I fix things, I heal things, I create magic. And it was like, no, because the territory that we're in is you can't do anything. You have to like disconnect. And I want to talk about this because this is hot, hot at the moment in my life. You have to disconnect. And then I heard, have a look at your masculine. Take the focus off all the things that you can't control, you can't help, you can't support. It's like tearing you down. It's going to kill you. Have a look at your masculine. So I had this whole experience and I had this masculine version of myself like show up. And I can tell you what, he was not doing well. He was a reflection of everything that I'm seeing. And you just got to work with him. You've just got to work with him. The more you work with him, the more your reality will change. The more you'll see shifts in those that you love. And that's all you've got to do. And I have been. I know, like, Tim, for a few days if I get busy, but this is integrating higher aspects of myself. And this whole, like, I'm going through a lot of body stuff, and I have been for a long time this year. But literally half of my body feels foreign, and half of my body feels just like it's in the new reality. It's like that. And I will tap into it, and there's like this weird augmented machinery aspect of me that's being unplugged and trying to integrate back into my body. So there's so many things on the multidimensional aspect that I can relate to of what's happening in my own inner union and communion. But also that's where it goes into multidimensionality and into some of the secret space program things. There are literally aspects of my consciousness in my masculine side that's still coming back in and honing in, trying to, oh God, trying to come home. And I've been working with a Chinese medicine practitioner for cupping and acupuncture. Like I got to a point where I need help. Like I'm doing all things and I'm still not. And this all started with the spider bite, Todd. While I was doing multi-dimensional work battling spiders and then got bitten. Like there's a whole story to this, but we don't have to go there. Like it's never just one layer of reality. But anyway, I went to see her, and I've been seeing her once a week, and she's amazing. She's like, everything that you're going through in your body, the underlying cause is emotion. Like you're just bottled so much stuff up. So I see her, and I literally cry for 2 days after. It's so potent and so powerful. And now, I mean, she's become this magical worker in my life that I've needed. Like she literally showed up. And I don't often reach for help. And I can see this. There's a story of my journey and the masculine representation, because where we're heading and all the downloads that I've got of like this balance and this union and this, we'll get to that. But like we're in, like, you're being prepared. You've got to shed, you've got to. And so yesterday I saw her, and I literally have, in my right side of the body, I have big welts and bruises from where she put in needles. Like it's extreme. And she's like, I've never seen a body that's so like disheveled and sensitive. I'm like, oh, I'm a unique. Unique. And so we were working on the spleen specifically. And she was making some jokes about the emotion, and she goes like, once you release these emotions, your body is going to like snap back into place. And I had this dream. So I want to go back to the masculine aspect of what he was showing me, because the first session I did on him, the amount of stuff that was releasing from him was lifetimes. It went back to Lyra, it went back to Orion Wars, it went back to all the end of civilization, like the end of time scenario just oozing out of his energy field. And so that's where the extreme emotion and grief and loss and all this suffering complexity of what we've been through is kind of oozing out. And I think that's happening on an individual level, on a collective level. And the masculine's the one that kind of brings it all into physicality. So I've always been shown when we get to that point, that's where the shifts happen in the physical. So I had this dream like a few weeks ago. It was so funny, but it makes sense now. I was being shown like all the body stuff is just the trauma we're releasing. And it's not just, yeah, I've had a rough couple of years. Yeah, I'm not going to lie, it's been rough. But it's so much more held in our bodies on a soul level, DNA level.
It's more like a couple of millennia.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, exactly. It's like, and so I had this dream one night when I'm having these deep healing processes in my sleep, and it literally said Lyra, liver, left side, even though it's technically livers, I know, but this is the metaphor of like in your liver, you were holding trauma from Lyra and it was your feminine side, and that's just being cleared. Now, last night when I was literally dreaming about my spleen and the collective spleen going through this purification, and the spleen helps the lymphatic system, which is the water retention, the emotion. So there's this big purification that's happening. I've never thought about it like this. This is all very new for me, but there's this collective body, if you will. And what I was being shown was, and I don't want to get too much into Three Eye Atlas, but I was being shown this analogy. It's just an analogy. If the cosmos is our body and we all hold we're, fractals of the cosmos in our bodies, what's happening in the cosmos right now is there is something that's incoming, or there's a few that have this really high frequency that's shaking everything up. So that's happening on an individual level. We're encoding all this new light and energy in this template that's literally rattling up all the eons of the gunk so that we can like literally shift into this new harmonic expression of reality.
Yeah, it's almost like an internal medbed pill. But yeah, Guy, you bring so much out there, and I know that we're in this weird space of trying to understand when, as the days go by, the reality of giving up and surrendering to understanding from that human standalone is going away. But at the same time, you honor the intelligence. You look at the metaphor of this three-eye atlas and what you just brought up, which I think is very dynamic, because I feel like that's the main thing. It is a metaphor. It is an energetic symbol. And this is what's happening. Now, what's happening at the gut level? Like what's been going on these last 13, 14 years? And again, I go back to the masculine feminine thing. And some of the things I've been noticing in my work, and I've noticed this over the years, and it's perfectly understandable. If you have 80%, 80 to 90, depending on how far back you go, of the Soulogy group or other groups, or just the community that's awake or whatever you want to call it, in general, you're going to have that perspective from the physical experience, and it's primarily the feminine, right? And it's certainly starting, it was showing us that this wasn't BS, that this was always real, and the wisdom and the experience of the feminine started to come to the surface. And if you look to the other side of the room, there was like a dark corner over there, and there's a bunch of masculine, kind of like coward, like dogs that are about to get beaten, because that's what they've been getting the whole time. So my point is this, like what you're saying to me is what I can kind of relate to with my basketball story too, because it was kind of like my feminine side said, look, if it's painful for you to walk, are you starting to understand how much overemphasis you're putting on your right step, your right foot? So allow me to come in and show you something different. And because it's not the same feeling, because it feels different, it feels softer. When I used to shoot with my left hand back when I was talking about, it felt very strange. It was a whole different body. It was a whole different movement, right? So I started to feel this stuff. Now, the reason I'm bringing this all to a head, to the place that I am, is because if we look at that field and we take into consideration the human condition, you have a lot of times we've talked about the over-identification that we have had on a personal level with our own gender, with our own past life, with our own abilities, or whatever the case is. But it's the over-identification we've given to the other side that I'm seeing starting to come into a coalescence. And it's a very difficult thing, because we have to say, look, I've had many, and mostly females on this show over the years. And even very recently, I remember when I started to kick this back up in January, I really wanted to go after these younger women. They were like, late 20s, early 30s, very tapped into the Rose Ray and very tapped into the Mother Goddess and Magdalene, very much queens, and I could tell they were getting that download. They were tapped into it. But at the same time, from the human perspective, I could see their anger. I could see their, their impatience, that whole thing about men are stupid, or what are you guys doing? And so I could kind of see them like, what is going on here? But what I'm starting to realize is what you said. It's not him. it's me. It's not her, it's me. And this is where the rubber really meets the road. And we really have to, what I call the brutal honesty of the soul, where you say, you know what? You cannot take create exceptions in the universal field as a result of the human experience. That's what got us here in the first place. We say, oh, okay, well, everything operates that way, but here it's different, and I'm the exception, and that's the problem. It's not me. No, no. So it's a very, very confronting kind of thing. And the reality is it makes total sense to me, who I feel in this body very masculine. I've always, like you said earlier, I want to help people. I want to fix things, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, you were saying that as a woman, I'm going, hey, I feel the same way. Two different journeys. My hands have been tied. And you're right about, at least in my opinion, from where I'm coming from, you're right on point about in terms of what you're seeing in the masculine within yourself and the masculine you're seeing in the field. And that is, how would I describe this but to say, in the spirit of wanting to help God, country, family, partner, children, mother, father, everything, we chose, we consented to go to war energetically, metaphorically, literally, and sell our souls and compromise ourselves because we were convinced that that which was given us the information and the message and the inspiration and motivation to go do these things was greater than we were.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got a lot of egg on our face. It's a harrowing thing. I feel like I've gone through a lot of it, but I can see where it's actually got a long way to go. Certainly, I'm saying, to a degree within myself, but I can see it in the brothers. Like this is some heavy shit. But at the same time, if what I've been projecting outside of myself, like say in my case to the feminine, uh, is still something that I'm disassociating from, and I'm not claiming within myself because the truth is, it is me. I am her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so this is the ground that I feel like that we're actually getting into here, and by some crazy, remarkable, insane reality that the mantids don't even understand, it will take these types of conversations. But in order to have these conversations, it's not just about sharing what you see in that side of you that you thought was separate from you, but it's about allowing the mirror to show you what you are resisting within yourself. It's some deep shit, in my opinion. Anyway, thank you. This is
Thank
great.
you. Thank you, Ty. It's huge. It's huge. And it's so transformative. And what I know wholeheartedly from my own experience of like really honoring and tendering to my masculine energy, who need a lot of love and affection and attention, is that the more I developed that relationship and nurtured to what is needed and catered for in this time, how quickly things shifted in my life, how quickly things transformed. And I've always felt when we get down to the wire as a collective body of like when we get to the final flip of the keying, the ignition of the masculine energy igniting, that's like it feels like it's a lot quicker process in a masculine energy. Like the feminine, not the feminine slow, but the feminine's working all these different layers and etherics and energy and like all that. And then it's like it's almost like if you look at it like a sliding scale, it's like then you get to and then at the final part goes really quickly, like in trying to think of an analogy, like
No, I get you totally. I get you
yeah,
totally. And I really feel like this is relevant because I know, and I'm just going to be frank, and I'm just Todd, well, I'm more than that, but I mean, in this life, I'm Todd, right? And through my whole life, we all have these certain things that we know about ourselves. I've always been very intelligent. I've always been able to absorb information, but I've always had this uh, thing where when it comes to figuring something out, and I believe this is very masculine,
Yeah.
it takes a while. Like I can remember going back to the basketball days. I just told you, after my 8th grade year, I taught myself how to shoot with my left side and to operate from my left side.
Mm.
Well, before the 8th grade season started, we had to get in layup lines. And so you get in the right hand side, and most of us are right handed, and you run up to the basket and you make a right handed layup. It's no big deal. You jump off your left foot, you put up your right hand, and boom, you're there. Then we had to do it from the left side. So now you're dribbling with your left hand. You got to jump off your right foot and shoot with your left hand. Now, I was one of the better players, but I was the last person that could learn how to do it. People were laughing at me. Okay. But my point is a moment came in that instance later on, and in what we're talking about, where once he gets it, you're right. It just goes
Yeah.
boom. And
Boom.
that's why I say, to me, it feels like our feminine, obviously, is that connection. We never
Yeah.
lost it. It's the umbilical cord. It's a silver cord, whatever you want to call it, you know? The masculine, to me, doesn't just create her dream. He actually, through that channel, calls in the greatest attributes because he's also highly intelligent and matches her. He just has a different side of things. And he goes, okay, we're going to use Merlin, Jesus, this, that, and the other thing. And boom, I'm going to go out there and do this. Now, the one thing that I see that is inevitable in order for him to thrive, he he's allowed to grab those attributes and characteristics and skills and abilities in that moment with the channel that she's opened to take these steps in the density that we're in, even though it's a transformation and converging into a higher dimension, whatever. And that no matter what, the other side of him, her, is backing him 100%, regardless. Okay. So like that to me, I know that's very metaphoric, but and it almost sounds personal, but it's not. But to me, that's what's happening. It's happening with my mother, my daughters, my partner. It's happening with all those feminines. And I'm a lot like you. I'm just the inverse because I woke up. I mean, I woke up. I grew up with 3 sisters, 4 daughters, mothers, grandmothers, stepmothers, great grandmothers, aunts. You know, I mean, the feminine was a huge part of my uh, my own makeup. But I really feel like that's what it is. Like to be able to go, hey, let's just go back 400 years. And you and I are, living in a cabin in the middle of, the old West or whatever. And we got 3 kids and we got a farm and the government knocks on the door and says, you got to go to war. You got to fight for our country. You got to fight for your wife and your children. Right. And so you got to walk out that door. And the difference between what happens or what doesn't is the meeting of the minds right there. And so for him, all he wants, all he needs is her 100%. Hey, I trust you. I love you. I'm with you no matter what happens, period. Boom. And I really feel like that's what we're heading to. And it's kind of messy because of the association of the whole patriarchal evolution and experience is so much overly identified and overly associated with the male. And this has to go. It's inevitable. If we're going to break through to a new seed, a new universe, this war of the sexes bullshit has got to fucking stop. Because we're just fighting ourselves. What's the difference between all the other polarities and the masculine and the feminine? There is not any.
No,
It's
there
you.
is.
I'm looking at myself when I look at you, you know? And yeah, it's crazy. But I think the last thing I want to say, and thank you, is the whole exchange you had with the Manton. It wasn't just her. It wasn't just that half of us that has the emotional intelligence. It just so happens that that half of us could talk about it and maybe even call the mantis out on the carpet with it. But the other side of us is cowered in the corner, has been beaten to a fucking pulp, okay? Literally, okay? As soldiers, as prisoners, or whatever the case is, uh, and may not even be able to say that to the mantid, but it still feels the same thing. Okay. So the emotional part of it to me is where the congruence occurs. And it can only occur when we can accept that we're not uh that it's not separate from us. In other words, I'm not going to project on you what my views of the feminine are. Uh I'm going to see my feminine in you kind of thing. I mean, I can't explain it fully, but I hope you get my drift. Thank you for
I,
letting me speak on that.
oh, Todd, thank you. Not only was that so profound, and I totally with you on that whole journey, but like I could feel the energy and code coming through you when you were speaking to that. Ah, man.
Mm. Yeah, like I said, I would have sweat coming off my face or tears, and
Yeah, me
the
too.
sweat's dried up now. I think the tears are about to come. I don't know. Yeah.
I'm on the verge of it. I can feel it. I can feel it. The projection thing has come up a lot this week in my reality, in both in many on receivership, on you know, not proud of myself. Not proud of myself. But I think as this masculine,
But we're all doing that though. You know, it's not even a question. It's just the way it is. Like I was talking about the 80/20 thing. Well, if
mm,
you got 80% in form that are making up these groups that are subjected to the human condition, which we all are, then 80% of that viewpoint is going to be the major influence. So what does that mean? That means that, and nothing wrong with it, but the feminine in us is looking at the masculine in us and going, "You motherfucker," to wake up to, "I love you. Don't you see me? Don't you understand?" But a points come where the click happens, and like you said, boom, it happens, and all of a sudden he goes, "Oh, I got this shit." Okay, this is where we're at, and it's the last vestiges of letting go, and moving that finger from pointing towards you back to me,
mhm,
and really
mm,
seeing her or him for what they really are. It's
huge,
this is
huge.
like, to me, this is like, Alicia, the most fucking golden thing, to be able to have a conversation like this online openly. Uh, there's no way you could have told me this is what we're going to talk about. And I would have been like, no, no way.
I had no idea. I had no idea. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna show up.
Yeah. But the crazy thing is, within that final line of separation is the secret space program, is
Oh,
parallel lives, is every fucking thing. Every single thing is contained within that, which for me kind of simplifies it. But I still want to talk about all that other stuff because it's very interesting and it provides us with code and memory.
yeah. I, I want to talk about this false layer of reality that's being ripped, literally feels like it's being ripped out of us on a cellular level, and it ties into the body stuff. And it definitely works into the SSP stuff. So I had an outburst a few days ago. I literally, the same day I literally, from the moment I woke up, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. And I cried all day. I couldn't stop, couldn't stop. And I knew it was bigger than me. Like it was just this, and I'm sure you and everyone watching can relate when you go into a process that's tapped into somewhat of a collective experience, and you just literally this vessel that is just pouring out all this shit. And you know, I had some really rough, honest, brutally honest conversations with my parents, and I was hysterical. I'm like, where is this coming from? But I couldn't stop. And there was a lot of projection on my behalf, and I had to take some inner reflection. And this is just a sample of what I'm prepared to share, because it's happening. Like, this is just a sample of what I'm witnessing in all different facets of relationships and connections. And but what I realized is there are all these different versions of reality. This plays into the parallel reality, and I watch and I observe it, and I have done for years. And I notice that on my days of that, I am interacting with a version of them that is not real. It's not the true version of them. I'm interacting with a timeline expression of them that is basically mirroring the roughness of me in that moment. And so really there's no point in engaging in this. I mean, there is, like, it's a process, and it brings up raw emotion, and you know, it gives you a highlight into something deeper. But it's those parts that I feel are being ripped out of us and exploded, and we have to I went through this, I've been through this process a few times now within myself and within close dynamics and relationships, where it's literally like there is a blow up or an emotional eruption of like, I can't carry on. Like, this is friction. It's creating friction. And what I'm understanding is we're literally unplugging from those versions of reality of relationships so that we can do like a recalibration within ourselves, and then come into a more coherent connection. And I feel like this is happening to me on a daily basis because of the
Yeah.
frequency thing that's spinning so fast.
Let me just interject one thing real quick, because I just
Sure.
want to make sure it sinks in within myself. But what you
Mm.
said about you're actually interacting, and this sounds, um, it sounds externalizing and projecting, but it's not. Okay. And this is not where I'm coming from. And I know that's not where you were coming from. I just hope I can say it right. But my point is that you realize you're dealing with a version of them that's not them. Okay. And how you kind of married that up with it's actually a reflection of me that I'm, and what I love the way that you brought it down to, which was essentially, you alluded it. I mean, is I'm going to make a new choice here. Now, this choice has nothing to do with you on a personal level. It just has to do with whether I'm going to remain or return to this field of experience and consciousness and frequency that we've come out of. And that's what's kind of weird. And you use the term ripped away, and but that to me is what it is. But the reason I wanted to interject that is because it does come down to a personal choice, okay, to not engage there.
Mm.
But for me, what I have found that is so important, and I just did this with my mother, okay, um, is to choose not to engage in that space, but not to externalize any of it. Simply to recognize it as this is my choice. This is the field of the band of frequencies that I'm coming into in my existence, and all parties will be there.
Correct.
But as long,
Correct.
right? But
Mhm.
as long as I make a choice and say, "Oh, I'm putting this boundary up because you're fucking asleep," or whatever the case is, it's not going to happen. It's just
Correct.
simply going. It's not about a person. It's about a place. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Todd, because you just, you got the juice and the essence out of what I'm trying to. I've been observing this for many, many years. And through that New Earth experience, I realized that there are all healed versions, optimum timeline versions of all the people that I love in that side of reality. And so the sticky part is as we're moving through these very chaotic, intense times where we're kind of in one bandwidth and then we're, like we're kind of crashing with the waves, is there are literally different versions interacting. And that is, I don't know how many there are in operation. I have no idea, but it's trippy as you know what. And it's kind of fun because then you can't take it that seriously when you and I like another analogy, a couple of years and years ago, I had two very close friends and I was shown in a dream. I was told you have to step away from these two people because they're going to go down a different, like it was told like they're going to go down quite a dark initiatory pathway, and that's not your experience, and that you're not to go there with them. That's for them to play out together. And I didn't heed that warning or that message from my dream because it didn't make any logical sense. It was like, these are my two closest friends at the time. Like, well, I just stopped talking to them and walk away. Like, it didn't, and I didn't. And you know what? The friction of the fact that we were meant to go separate ways at that point, it blew up in unnecessary ways, is what I was shown. Because if I just pulled back my energy and just kind of gently put, it would have just been a simpler. And then we could have, and I do believe we go through these zigzags, but because I stayed in it, and it's all about, it's never personal, it's all about energy and vibration. Is we go as we're accelerating, everyone's at different pathways and levels and frequency bandwidths, and you come into a cohesion, sometimes you're out, you're like, sometimes it does all weird and wonky things, and it's literally just, that's all it is. But we add stories and attachments, and she's this and he's that, and like it's actually not about that at all. It's like where that person's at and where that person's at, and then they'll do the dance.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that happening right now.
Yeah.
And I always joke about how we get to Scorpio when we move through this time of year, and the sun's in Scorpio. Not that I go much on astrology, but there is, I can see. And I always laugh because we always get to this point. I'm like, oh, we're in projection season. Here we go.
And you start to realize, it's just the toroidal pattern. You're really never, you're always one, but in that experience, it looks like you're coming apart. And yeah, and I want to go back to what you said real quick. It makes me think of like what you were talking about. Like you had this premonition or dream where you needed to step away, and you didn't, and we can all relate to that. And it's kind of like fear. You don't have to look too far because it's everywhere. But so I think of I love the Stoics, right? Seneca, Epictetus. I don't know which one said it, but they said something like, never complain, never explain. And so that's kind of what I feel like is coming into the fold, is what you're talking about. It's where we can make these choices that we clearly see we could have done in the past, okay, to a greater degree or whatever. And we don't have to explain ourselves. We don't, obviously, we're not going to complain. I think we're moving past that now. I mean, like we can bitch as much as we want, but it only makes the monster bigger.
Doesn't
But
it?
you know what I mean? But you know, if I'm really seeing you for what I am and therefore what you are, I don't need to explain anything. There is no suspicion. There is no doubt. There is no mistrust. Yeah, these are big things for the human only to take on. Now, the Mantids and et al. Are looking at this more scientifically, mathematically, geometrically, but
Yeah.
we have this emotional human quotient. And so to get to a point where you have a physical mirror of yourself, or two or three or five or whatever, and you have a level of collective consciousness where the emotional quotient is front and center, as a human is on point in the multidimensionality, and you can actually get to that point, I don't have to explain myself to you. You don't have to explain yourself to me because I fucking love you. You love me. I'm you, you're me. I mean, this is crazy. Yeah, I know it sounds bizarre, but this is really where it's at, you know? So the conversations may not, I mean, the verbalization may not go away. It may be part of the transformation to utilize the voice. I really feel like it is because it has elements of the non-physical and the physical. But I feel like the verbalization and not explanations, lack of a better word, the verbalization, the storytelling is taking on a whole different set of characteristics, which are very much in line with the multidimensionality, mantid, etc. But it has that core, that basis of the human heart, which is, we think of the human heart as love and no, it's anger, it's passion, it's envy, it's pride, it's all this colossal family of children that came out of this condition that was a fear-based programming or death programming or whatever the case is, that we've actually said, fuck this shit. This is all me. I'm taking this experience and I'm going to utilize this as much or more than my multidimensional connections, the fact that I can channel, the fact that I can transmit or do light language, whatever the fucking case is. This is it's a here and now kind of thing. It goes, and I have to just bring it up one more time, but that moment when you told me that story and you said to the mantis, well, what about my emotional health? To me, that was like like a stamp, like boom, I'm not leaving without this being addressed. And I'm not going to take your word for it. Not that I don't trust you, but my input is at least half of this outcome. We're going to share my experience with what you brought to the table, and we're going to come out with something new. And that's the golden child that's popping out of the Taurus field. This is what's happening to us in mass. So yeah, and like you said, it's happening very, very rapidly. And I feel like what you said about our masculine side, the masculine side's getting it. And so what happens there is it's not going to work like you said. It's not going to work like in the past when films like, I know this, I know this, I know this. It's two different elements of us. This one is like dumb, 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 men are stupid. It's taking too long. Then all of a sudden, snap, snap, and we have our own conversations with the faces of the universe, such as you did with the mantid, and we say, you know what? Hey, wait a minute. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not doing this. And so it's kind of the same thing to me anyway, the same spirit, the same theme of that conversation you had with the mantid, where you just put your foot down and said, wait a minute, pal, I'm happy to serve, but I'm being damaged. I'm being depleted. And at a minimum, I need to have a voice here, an equal voice. So yeah, it's a, how does this even happen? How do these conversations even take place? But it's nice.
I love it. I live for these experiences and these expressions and these connections, especially with you. I think we share such common threads that we can just get into
Well, I
it.
mean, you have
And
the same birthday as somebody I know, and that's another thing. That's another thing. Your sister. So she said to me a few days ago, because I remember earlier in the year we would be talking about it. And she'd say, "Well, it's like we're having a life review in form."
oh
I'm
yeah.
like, "Yeah, I've had out of bodies. Yeah, I'm getting this. Like to actually have the intelligence and coding hit you in the moment." And be able to apply it at the same time. In other words, to be an empath, but actually not just say, I'm an empath, I can feel things, but actually to use that empathic ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, kind of thing. Anyway, so a couple of days ago, she said to me, man, I'm going through this and I'm going through that, and I'm having a life review in form, but it's not like the old ones. So this
Mhm.
goes back to what you were just saying a while ago. She said, most of the time, you get to see the life review in form, and you put yourself in the other shoes and you realize, oh my God, it's not just my words that are spells, but it's my thoughts that are spells, or my actions, or whatever. And I can see how they felt as a result of of what I emitted.
Mm.
She said, Now it's like I'm starting to remember the good things, like the
Mm.
pure things, like this moment, or like with your loved one, or partner, or child, or pet, which I don't like that word because they're souls, but you know what I mean. But like these moments where you we do bring it together. We have brought it together, and it's beyond explanation, and the emotions are fully on par with what's happening, because that is a level of intelligence that we didn't have coming into this. So yeah, so we start to see the things that have stayed with us and that haven't left us and won't leave us, that are part of what we had coming into this thing, but it's been expanded because we've done this through this I was going to say shift show, but this dense
It
physicality,
was like,
and we're still standing here.
mm,
We're still here,
yeah.
and so maybe that's part of it. I think that was very recent when she told me that, like 3 or 4 days ago. But that we start to see that aspect of the life review as opposed to the shit, which is really what we've
Mm,
been fed the whole time based on the way the realm was set up. And now we're
mm.
saying, no, not anymore. Uh-uh.
Yeah, it's like that two-tone overlay. It's like the shit show and the beauty. And it's like this teetering. I feel like there's that overlay that is expressing. And it goes back to interacting with the different timeline versions. I can relate so much to what she's saying because I can see that maybe not in the last week, but I can relate to that so much. And it's like some of the processes that I've been through, like in those life reviews, is so dramatic but so powerful in coming into unity in oneself. But there's just one funny thing I want to share about the interfacing with the different realities of different people, because I want people to pay attention to this, because this is a trip show. I have a very close friend of mine who I see on a regular basis, and one day he came over and we had this epic conversation, like you and I would, like at a level that you and I would. Epic, like groundbreaking conversation. The next day, he rocks up at my house in a totally different energy. And I made references to the conversation we literally had the day before, had no recollection of that conversation, not one. And so these are the things that I observe in my reality when I'm so that's why I don't take it personal, because I'm like, oh, it's just, and I joke and I have a name. I'm like, oh, I'm dealing with ascended version, blah, blah. Or, oh, today I've got the matrix version of that person. It's wild. It's wild. And I can see that in myself. It's not just the reflection. I can wake up and go, oh, I'm in that bandwidth today. So I'm going to have to tend to myself a little bit more than what I would if I'm in.
Yeah, which is why I lay in the bed looking at the ceiling for 4 to 6 hours over the last 2 weeks every day. And I love your example because it's not, um, um, it's not exclusively putting the cause or the onus on the other, which the other is. What is the other? I made a, I made, I don't normally do this, but I don't know where my balls went, but so I went out last night and I did what I call spirit walk, which is how I started doing this stuff, back in 2014. And but I didn't do it live because I
Mm,
was too scared, right? But this is what I talked about. I talked
mm,
about, the reality uh that it's just me, that yes, I know you're there and I'm here. Okay.
mm,
But oneness is oneness, unity is unity. And as I
mm,
was walking on the beach, I had the same type of feeling, the same type of thing ran in my head. It was about my mother and it was about one of my siblings. And I was going, wait a minute. This happened one day, and then the next day this happened. And there were two different examples. One was, let's just say, lower vibration, and then the next day with them it was this high vibration, and the other one was a high vibration. It went into the lower vibration, and I thought, what the hell was that? And in the course of this little uh, soliloquy or whatever, I said that. I said, you know what? This actually doesn't matter. It's how I woke up. It's me. It's what I'm
Mm,
seeing. No judgment, no harm, no foul. But yeah, I really get what you're saying, because there are there are times when I, like right before the show, which maybe you can relate to. But I was like, I don't need to talk to anybody. I don't need to do anything. I just need to sit here in quietness and just be here. Like, it
mm,
makes no sense at
mm,
all. And the last thing I'm going to say is, whether I'm sitting in this place that I'm living in right now, or I'm walking down the beach or walking through town, there's been so many times in the last month where I literally feel like I'm walking, okay, I'm doing what I'm doing, and I can feel, by the old conventional terms, demons and ugly things trying to bite me and claw at me. And yet I'm walking past or through them in like this etheric bubble, oval bubble. I'm not cocky and going, fuck you. You can't touch me. Can't touch this. I'm not saying that. I'm just looking at them. I can almost feel them clawing me or biting me, but I can't, it doesn't hit my body. And at the same time, that consciousness, or awareness or beingness is coming in and saying, hey man, it's okay. Just get
mm,
used to it.
mm,
As I'm shaking, walking down the street, going, "Oh, are you sure? Is that big leopard going to come bite a big piece out of my ass, or that reptilian, or whatever?" So it's weird. It's like
Oh
it's
God.
like I can see and feel and sense these things that I've experienced in the past, and they did
Mm,
bite me. Okay, like
mm,
you know
mm,
what I mean. If you go back to the years, but at the same time I can see them, they can't, they
mm,
become I become more and more impervious, and my bound or my
mm,
field becomes wider, and
mm,
they're almost like
mm.
becoming like an echo.
Can we talk about this more? But I just need to can I just pause for 1 second and come back?
Yeah, go ahead, go take a wee.
Okay. I just need to close the door. I'll be back. Thanks.
Yeah, turn off your mic. Yeah, I think this is what it's all about. We don't have the answers. We just put our stories together as best we can, and share this information. I think there's a big part of it too is getting past the point of embarrassment, getting past the point of being ashamed of ourselves, or showing our weakness, or whatever the case is. And the intelligence, the consciousness is moving so quickly, like she talked about earlier. And I feel like that really is, there is a masculine aspect to that, not to give that credit, so to speak, to any certain gender at all. It's just simply part of our evolution, and we're able to look at these symbols, or these aspects of us that comprise us, and say, okay, that part of us is coming online. Yeah, I mean, there's so much to be had, and there's so much to come into an understanding of. And I really feel like one of the big things that's happened for us, especially this year, has been that, it used to be something would come into your awareness. You could go back like 5 years ago. We all got hit on the 10th, and this big download came in, and this is being altered, and it takes 3 weeks to integrate and come out the other side. But now it's like the awareness itself is the change. Like
Mhm,
there's either less time or no time in between the awareness, which isn't just the awareness like Alicia was talking about a while ago, when she was told, you need to take some time away from these two people. Uh, the information's already there, but you have to accept it. And I think for a lot of us right now, as we get down to the nitty gritty, I would say like the root of it, it's not always easy to accept the higher or expanded consciousness or awareness, because it requires for us to let go of these fucking stories and the things that we prejudice and bias ourselves about other people in particular or things, you know. So, oh, you're back. Yeah.
I'm back. Yeah. I love that. Thank you. Giving voice to it, I think that's probably one of the things that's been most highlighted, especially in this last week for me, is the letting go of the old expressions of myself and letting go of the old expressions of others to reconnect in the new. And it's like painful and it feels like a death. And it literally feels like that old reality is being, like, I went through this whole, like, I'm dying, old versions of me are dying. Now it's showing up in my closest relationships where that way of relating has to die to be reborn in the new harmonic expression. But this, what you were talking about in like walking through, like we are growing, becoming these evolved versions of ourselves, yet we're still walking through the shadow of death, so to speak, in the, like if we go out in public or walk down the street, like the more sensitive we become, more refined we become, the more awareness we have to the literal bloodthirsty beings that want to nip it out. Like that is such a real, experience. And I can see people who don't have that level of awareness. Like I wanted to write a post, and maybe I will, but it, like the title was, is it trauma loop or is it an entity? Like, because both look very similar, but they have a very different energy to them. And one attracts the other. And I think, I mean, I went out this week for the very first time. I can't remember how long it's been. I went to the city to watch a musical this week, Todd. Like, it was so highly anticipated by me. I was so excited that I was actually leaving my house and going and doing something out in the world. I got halfway through and I felt suffocated. I I literally I was in a room with hundreds of people and dense crap, and isn't not a judgment, it was an observation of like, oh my God, I feel like I'm suffocating. I feel like all these energies are at me. Um, and it's our responsibility as we grow to affirm stronger energetic boundaries. We can be aware of it, but we walk through and we illuminate and light that shit up. So it's like we become a fireball that we're just, and it's like, oh, I see you. But you aren't going to bring me down this time because we've been
No,
doing
no,
that.
I totally get it. Yeah. Yeah. It's, there's so many ways to, to try to get to this. And this is why, you know, how do I, okay. So I'm going to use myself as an example, but I'm only going to use myself as an example to make a point that I can actually sink my teeth into, because I'm really a representative of all of us and vice versa. So if I just look at the timeline and I look at the last couple, 2, 3 years, 4 years, whatever, and look at the mission and look at the things that we were doing, and I look at, doing the SoulogyNetwork.com and moving off social media and starting all this stuff going up, and then all of a sudden you go through some time and things happen and you shut everything down. And you literally throw away your streams of abundance. Everything just gets shattered to pieces. And now we're coming
Yeah.
out, right? Right. Even now. Yeah, absolutely. Believe me, I got 2 nickels and that's it. So, but my point is that there is something that is coming through, and it's not just through this particular, but it is right now, because this is the here and now. This is the eternal moment here and now. It'll be with my partner. in an hour. It'll be with my daughter tomorrow. It'll be with another person. It'll be with a stranger walking through town. And there's something coming through that has nothing to do with likes or views or engagements or money or bank accounts or fame or fortune. There's something coming through at the gut level that, yes, if two or more are there, it's expanded. And that's not even a linear statement because because you and I can have an interaction as a result, as a example. They're all mergings. Every one of them's mergings. Every single one of them are. So one of us or both of us walk away, we encounter somebody else. They are going to get what you were just talking about. They are at least going to get that blast. You know what I mean? And then the thing begins to operate as a contagion that it is. So, you know, I heard for a long time, and I mentioned this last night on the show with Liara Covert, but I was told 14 years ago, we have these wonderful wake up experiences, and nobody seems to realize until they go through it that it doesn't make any sense. And what are they fucking saying to me? What do I do with this? And they said to me, whatever you do, don't do anything you've done before.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't make sense, do it.
Do it.
And that has, seriously, that has taken on a greater and greater thing. And what I'm seeing is like through M. Edwards' comments about that I was bringing up at the beginning of the show about you, that's what it is. We start to go, wait a minute. I can tell people that I'm insecure. I've told people that over the years. I'm like, Todd, you're insecure. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm insecure. Well, you don't seem like it. Well, yeah, well, but I am. Or whatever it is, whatever those things are, you start to realize that every single person is going through the same thing. So if everyone's been subjected to the human condition per se, then what the hell do we have to hold against each other? This is where we're headed. There's nothing personal. There's something like like my partner was telling me, you know, I'm having this life review, and it's not the shadow points anymore. It's not the shit and the destruction that I created and the lessons that I need to be taught as a result. It's the pure moments. So if you even think about any of us, think about your antagonist. And for many of us, it's the mother, it's the father, it's the ex, it's the sibling. Okay. You had pure moments with these folks. You did. And we have. And they live. And that part is still there. And I just went through this with my mother. I hope this is okay, So my mother fell down in the shower. She's 86 years old. She fell down in the shower about 3 or 4 weeks ago and had a bad fall. And she ended up going to the hospital. And then she went to kind of a rehab place, right? And I'm on schedule to leave Mexico after over a year and come back. All my stuff is there. I got a studio there, and there's a story behind it and all. And well, I'm going to come back, and I'm gonna help. It's timing's perfect. It's divine timing. And then my soul tells me, you're not going anywhere, pal. You stay right where you're at, find another place, and just sit tight, and we'll give you more direction later. The best I can figure, it's a month to 2 months, and then I don't know what's going to happen, right? So I couldn't talk to my mother. I couldn't talk to anybody other than my partner. That's pretty much it. Or scheduling a show or doing a show. This has been going on about a month. And so finally, my mother sends me a note, and she just kind of says a text, which isn't normally what she does. And she sends me a text, and she's like, hey, here's what's going on. My cousin's coming to live in the house, and he's going to be there to assist. And I'm getting out of this rehab in a few days, and hope you're doing okay. And I was like, okay. And I said, hey, and it felt so good too. I was like, hey, I love you. I'm going through a lot right now. I can't, I don't know when I'm leaving. Um, and I can't talk to anybody right now. No. And then she just wrote back and said, that's fine. Just know that I love you. Right. So I know that sounds like a very superficial exchange, but for me, it was a deep, deep thing, because what I noticed was, which I think a lot of us can identify with, we're always having to initiate,
Yeah.
initiate, initiate, initiate. It's a form of overgiving. It's a form of depletion. Now, some of us, I'm sure it works both ways, have to stop and say, I can't say anything. I can't say anything. I can't say anything. And then you get this response from the person who's normally not the overgiver that delivers the inverse of the message, right? So for me, it was a very, very profound thing. And this has all happened this week. And then with everything else that's happened this week, I just feel like that the individual experiences being told in real time or close to it, with the real heart open, with the emotions on the table, as opposed to being some type of appendage or handicap weighing us down. To actually say, "Hey, Alisha, this is how I feel." I feel like shit. I want to cry, whatever the case is. But somewhere within that uh, transparency or authenticity is the real code that you called the mantis out on, to me, because I know it would have moved them, because I can feel it.
I've never thought about that, but while you were saying it before, I could feel the ripple of what that created
Mm.
in that moment, in your sharing, in maybe other people's experience similar. It was almost like they had to go and rethink everything and incorporate that. Um, but I want to thank you for sharing about your experience over the last month, and I can relate to that so much with your mum and breaking the patterns and the overgiving and the not wanting to share, and it's very highlighted in my field at the moment, especially the parent thing. And I'm seeing that not just in my own experience, but in so many others. It's like this what I call the death program, because I believe that we're moving into a immortal state of being. It's totally different where we're heading, and how that translates, I don't know. It's just a knowing, but it's like it's really hard to watch people in that vulnerable state, and not, the old version of you would have jumped in and fixed it, but you're being told you can't, but it still works out in the end. But it's so hard. And like right at the tip of the iceberg of what I'm working through now, being this constant overgiver, and to my detriment. And that's where my masculine's stepping and going, no, don't explain, don't talk, don't share. And because I'm very active on social media, I think, and like you, I think people have a perception that we're not going through it, and maybe we don't want to talk to, you know having these extra conversations around it. But I feel also, just when you were sharing that, and this is something I've been pondering, what's transpired in the last week or so for me, I think if this disconnect and reconnect, especially when it comes to the mother, father, maternal, the paternal expression, is about ripping out the invalid ancestral coding in our DNA. Because as this new human, it comes into the manhood and the change of the guard, it's like we're coming into this really beautiful expression of a human embodiment that doesn't carry the bullshit genetics that we've been the code breakers to come here and break through. And it's really hard when you're that person in the family. It's really hard because no one else everyone else in the family pretty much thinks you're crazy, whether they express it or they don't. You can feel it. They
Well, they
don't
have to. They have to, because not two of them are going to unite and say, "Hey, they're actually onto something." But the other thing that you said too, part of what's helped me a lot, not just in the last month, but I would say over the last maybe 6 months or so this year, is that again, this over identification thing. I started to understand through my soul's awareness that obviously I have the patterns like most of us have had: overgiver, 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 overgiver. And I had some real root programs become neutralized, or come into my field of my knowing through a very harsh kind of a hot summer and stuff. But what I came to eventually was that, what do you think you're the exception? Do you think you're the overgiver? If you think you're the overgiver, then you are divorcing yourself from a part of the universal experience, that which is outside of you, which is truly your twin. That is your reflection. And I'm like, what the F? And they're like, yeah, you're an overtaker too, pal. If
Mm.
you're an empath, you're a narcissist. If you're an overgiver, you're an overtaker. You're playing the game. And this goes back to what you said about an hour ago. It's not about, it was the example you had with your two friends, right? Uh, it's not about people. It's simply about saying, I'm not there anymore. I've had enough flashes or timeline jumps, and that I'm able to sustain this higher level now. And I really feel like last month we hit a higher timeline, for me anyway, for the first time, that was in another dimension. And we
Mm.
can be there now. And what I love about what you had to say is that everyone, everything is there as well as it is at this other place. They're there. The only reason they're not there, the only reason is because, as an example, I think I'm an overgiver. And if
Mm.
I think I'm an overgiver, then they're an overtaker. If I think I'm an empath, then I'm thinking they're a narcissist, or whatever other polarities we want to use. And this is what it's come down to, because it has nothing to do with anyone else. Now, the mantids, Arcturians, Andromedans, elementals, angels, etc., have all been there to kind of push us and nudge us and hit a 2x4 across our head at times, or whatever the case. But the reality is, it's come down to us now.
Yeah.
And the universe is by design created. We have created this game. That's not a good word, but
Mm.
this realm, this experience that required technology to the level that we had to forget. And this is the genetic manipulation. This is the secret space. This is the parallel universes. This is the alternate timelines. This is our mastery to keep us from refinding this place, not to just come back to what we were, because that would be boring. We'd figure
Oh,
that shit out.
yeah, no.
Yeah, we would figure that shit out real quick. But it's to come back to a place where you can say, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, this is who we are.
Mm.
And this is what we experienced. And what did we learn from this?
Mm.
Right? Now I'm
Mm.
going to combine that. What does that translate to? For me, it translates to, oh, I'm an overgiver. I'm an empath. I'm a nice guy. I got a big heart. Da 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 da. So what am I doing the whole time? I'm over identifying with this one side of the equation, and I'm divorcing myself from the other side of the equation. And now they're coming to the middle. So now I can say today, probably for the first time, I'm an overgiver. But I can also say equally, I'm an overtaker.
Mm.
I can
Mm.
say I'm empath, but I'm a narcissist. And I own these things proudly because I know they're all one and the same thing, And so that exchange with my mom and even my dad, um, and others, I can't explain it to people. this is, I haven't even tried to, but I mean,
Mm.
but what I'm understanding is that we're moving to a space where it really is. I mean, to me, the biggest, I don't want to say challenge, but it is about a choice. And the choice, like I said earlier, to be made without a charge, to be made without divorcing myself from anything outside of myself, which is really divorcing myself from something within myself, but to actually make a choice and say, you know what? I hate to use these terms. I'm in this higher band of frequencies. I'm in the 5D plus or whatever you want to call it. I'm on the new earth, whatever you want to call it. And this is how it operates. And you cannot bullshit yourself. You cannot. Your soul will not allow it. If
So
you
it's
see yourself as an overgiver, you will not sustain yourself in this band of frequencies unless you can also acknowledge your overtaker. And that's the truth. Because really what we're doing is we're neutralizing our judgment, prejudices, and biases of those things outside of ourselves, which is really rooted within ourselves.
mm.
No more excuses. Playtime is over, you know? God, what a fascinating hour and 50 minutes.
you you've changed my trajectory.
Well, you've changed
Thank
mine. I
you.
think we've all been doing this with each other, regardless of
Mm.
what roles we play on the superficial. But the personal part, we can scratch and claw all we want. White knuckles. Like what's that old meme with the cats hanging on the rope, like, hanging on for dear life. Um, but yeah, yeah. And I had that experience. I think I told you about it. Where I had that seizure without a seizure. A few days ago, a week ago. But that
Huh?
was the whole thing.
I didn't
I
know
didn't tell you
about
about
that.
that.
No.
Okay, so let me tell you real quick because I said it. I must have said it on another show. So I've had from the age of 15 to 50, I had 100, I don't know how many, but let's say 150 to 200 seizures. Okay. And I never could figure that shit out. Now, I didn't wake up to it till about 50, right? And then I had my reawakening and I said, what the fuck were these seizures about? And I'm seeing reptilians and I'm seeing Nordics and I'm seeing mantids and I'm seeing, you know, you know, there was psychic
The whole
surgery.
family.
Yeah, yeah. So I was always trying to like tap into it. I never could, right? So on the 15th of October, I had a huge, it was October. Yeah, I had a huge day and I'm moving. I have to move. And my soul, I thought I was going back, to the US and my soul's like, no, no, you're going to stay right here. Boom, boom, boom. And then I move on with stuff. So it was either that night or the next night. Well, I worked all day, on tech stuff and maybe did a show. I don't remember. And so I went down to the local place I go to, and I'll be honest because that's what it's all about. I ordered a double shot of whiskey and a beer, and an order of and a hamburger. I took half a shot, I just took a sip of the whiskey, and all of a sudden something came in. I'm gonna have a seizure. Now I haven't had one, right? In years and years and years. I had one episode 3 or 4 years ago that was very instrumental spiritually or whatever, but it's like stopped, right? So I'm like, okay. And I tell the guy that runs the place, I'm like, hey man, I'll be back in a minute. So I run around the corner and bam, I hit the floor. I hit the sidewalk, knees scraped, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? But it was a different level of consciousness. There was this level of consciousness, I would almost say like a walk-in, like an expanded version going through the same thing after 200 times, right? So I'm waiting for the seizure to come through, which normally entails vomiting and just you're fucked, right? So it didn't come, and I'm like, whoa, okay, I'm gonna try to make it home because I'm like a block away. So I get up and I run across the street and I make it about halfway through the block, and all of a sudden, bam, I'm on the ground again, and I'm laying there, and I can feel that it's something different. And so a couple things happened. One was I'm sitting there, I'm laying there, and I'm paralyzed. I'm flat on my back on the ground on the sidewalk in Mexico in the dark in nighttime, just laying there. And I'm going, okay, I feel a lot of the old seizure, things that would happen, the characteristics of it. And but I'm also having this for the third time out of 200 seizures, this conscious experience that I've
Yeah.
never had. And I'm standing in this space and I look to my right and I see the 3D. I see the seizure, I see Todd, I see all the history, and I'm like going, oh wow, I'm the observer. I must be
Mhm.
cool as shit, kind of thing. Like,
Mhm.
okay, I got that. And then I look to the left and I see the 5D plus kind of thing, right? And how the mechanics work and the geometry. And I'm like, wow, but wait a minute. I'm not bouncing back and forth. I'm actually in the middle, being the observer of both. And my soul says, well, I don't know how it said it, but it was kind of like, okay, you know what happens over there. So what's your choice? I'm like, well, I'm going over here. I don't know what it is, but I'm going that way. So ultimately, what happened was that, at least from my own experience with these seizures over the years, because when I would go into the seizures, say it was 200 times, 198 times, I lost consciousness. And
Mm.
and so what happened was I reached this point, and instead of I surrendered in a way I never had before.
Mm.
I didn't surrender to losing consciousness.
Mm.
I surrendered to death, to knowing, to everything, right?
Wow.
And I end up having all of the characteristics of a seizure without losing consciousness, eyes in the back of the head, and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because when I've had seizures over the years, when you come out of it, you break out into this massive sweat. And
Mm.
it feels like you feel like a fawn that just came out of a deer's womb. You're all wet and standing on your wet legs and trying to and it feels like a birth, but
Mm.
it never felt like this before. And so that was about 7 days ago, 8 days ago. But anyway, the whole point of it was it felt like, in fact, I know it was a, it was a higher aspect, or you can call it a walk-in. I don't really comfortable with that term, but a higher aspect of me had come in. It was showing me the coding of all the seizures I'd had,
Mm.
showing me the value. Now, not that I could tell you everything verbatim what it is, but the consciousness came in, and it was weird because I'm paralyzed for 5 or 10 minutes on the sidewalk, and then all of a sudden, boom, here we go with the click again. I like jump up and go, oh wow, I'm ready to go run a marathon. So I go home, I'm fine. I go cook 3 tacos at the house and go along with my life. But it felt like some kind of fusion between, and I gotta say this, with the theme of the theme of what we um, try to talk about, but I guess it's all related, is these parallel timelines, this this infiltration or interference, genetic, hybrid shit, all of that stuff kind of came down to this place of, I can't even explain it, but it was like, part of it was like, I am God.
Mm.
Um, and it was this beyond surrenders that I'd done before. And so I basically experienced death
Mm.
truly in a way that I had 200 times before,
Mhm.
but my eyes were open the whole time. And I was totally conscious as a human. A couple other times I'd flown out of my body. I had an out of body, near death, whatever you want to call it. I was totally conscious, like laying there going, I can't move, my body can't move, I'm paralyzed, and then all that stuff's happening with the third eye. And then I come out of it like snap, and I sweat, and I'm like, it feels like you're just coming out of like a sauna, like you've been in a hot spa, in the mountains or something. You come out and you're like, oh my God, all my cells are alive. And I'm like, whoa, I jump up and boom, I'm home. And I had some things happen after that. Now, I don't know why I'm talking about this in
I
particular.
do.
Okay. Well, then that's
Keep going,
perfect.
but I'm like busting at the seams. Yeah.
No, no, you go. That's the cue right there. Go.
Oh my God, Todd. Okay. I'll try and make this brief, but it all ties together. I had a note in my calendar earlier this week that it was what do I call it? Masculine rebirth day, based on a intel from a dream. I knew something of significance was going to happen on that day, and I had this anticipation all day. Now, I before this life, Alicia had an old life where she used to work as a teacher in mental health, and I used to have students that used to have seizures. Like I'm quite well equipped of the different levels and layers of coding of people having seizures, you know. But in this profound session that just came in earlier this week, less than a week ago, the information that was given to me specifically through the client was that people are now going to start to have seizures, but it is an upgrade of the coding happening in the rewiring of their brain, third eye, the pineal gland, and it's not going to be a normal type of seizure, but it's going to feel like that. And you were literally describing everything that came through that session. And what was told was that it's a part of a soul, what I call a soul walk-in upgrade. So it's a partial, it's a fragment of the consciousness. And if you want to look at it more like soul braiding, the oversoul starting to weave more consciousness into the vessel. It's not anything separate from yourself. It's just more of you coming. And you've just described going through that experience like in real time. And I'm just like, I'm like,
Well, that fits with a part of what I received because, like I said, I tried to tap into it the last 13, 14 years, and I did get information. I got different information, but I got like segments,
mm,
because I think it also applies to everything. In other words, there's a multi-dimensionality and multiple purposes, multiple means, multifaceted things with every step of the way, be it a parallel timeline or whatever the hell it might be. And so, what came in that night, one of the things that came in that night, um, was as it was happening, which was mind blowing, was that I was being shown that in those 200 occasions, starting at
mm,
15,
mm,
I was going, in other words, my human consciousness was connected enough to my soul that my human was saying, get me the fuck out of here.
mm,
I'm leaving. I can't take this. It was and it was masculine. It was very electric. It was
mm,
very electric. Okay. It's always been the root of it. I think the magnetic part of it has been the part that I couldn't go to, that I went
mm,
to in this experience and surrender or beyond surrendered and actually went, okay, I'm going to go into that and let this happen. Okay.
mm.
And I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to poop my pants, pee, vomit, whatever the case is, right on the sidewalk in Mexico in the dark. Somebody come along and take my wallet and kill me, whatever the case is. So, but what I got was that was true. That my human, which we can all relate to, beyond the funny statements, but like literally, get me the hell out of here. None of it makes sense. I can't handle it. I'm too much for it.
Mm, mm,
But at the same time, that was being flushed out through the seizure, the electric of it. Was being lightning bolted out. The higher aspect or the fuller aspect or the walk-in was coming in
mhm,
all those times. And so as I was getting the coding from all the seizures and the many things that were happening, that was one of, if not the biggest thing, was this is what's happening for you now. What's happening for you now is this is the last this is it, I would
Mm.
be absolutely flabbergasted. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but I don't believe that'll ever happen to me again. And there was something about releasing the last vestiges of the human over identification, prejudices, biases, whatever the case is. I'm a man, you're a woman, whatever, all those separations, it was all gone, and reminded me of the two instances I had that were out of body experiences, where all
Yeah.
that stuff without the pain was like
Mm.
understood. I was like, oh, this is great. Peace and love. Yeah, I want to stay here. This was very, very physical. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
literally knew, well, I really did. And I'm not just saying this. I felt like, okay, this is it. You're going into the next place, and I made peace with it. But
Yeah.
that was the big coding that came in. It was like, understand that this is a kind of a summary of all of the episodes that you had,
Mm.
and there's a part of you that's wanting to leave,
Mm.
okay, because it has the soul recognition,
Mm. Mhm.
but it's it's and it is leaving,
Mm.
okay, and it's making room
Mm.
for the rest of you. And
Exactly.
now go forth, my son. And, you know what I mean? Now go forth, my son,
Yeah.
and live your life. And I'm like, okay, well, I wake up the next morning. I'm like, okay, another 4 or 5 hours on my back. And where am I going? No, no. This is all
Yeah.
going away. This is
Yeah.
all going away. It's not going to make a sense. It's not going to be typical or conventional. But if you really think about it, Alicia, what has brought us all together? What has brought people to the, like I said, the Soulogy platform or Cosmic Gateway platform, the things that they talk about? What has really brought all that together? Whistleblowers, I mean, we could go on and on and on. It has been this, what I would call the still, almost silent voice within us that tells us, go do this, go do that. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? My family hates me. They think I'm crazy or this or that, or I lost my job. I don't have any money. But this is what has brought us together. And now I have to believe that which we've come to accept on a personal level is what that lady said on the post about the promo of this show. She said, I love watching her, which could be us, right? Any of us, whatever, because I realize I'm not alone.
Mm.
The power of that. And
Mhm.
last thing, I'm reminded of what they call it, the harmonic convergence in 1987. My friend who lives here in Mexico, Pamela Johnson,
Mm.
her wake up was being,
Mm.
and many of us can relate, put into a
Mm.
72-hour psych ward. You got to go to the psych ward thing. So she goes into the psych ward, 1987, meets 5 or 6 other people
Mm.
in the psych ward telling her, hey, I'm galactic. So,
But
so just like she did in that microcosm, and she realized, oh, I'm not crazy. You know what I mean? This is
mm.
happening on a mass scale, but I feel like although the non-physical etheric aspect of it is so important, even if one person brings it into themselves, everyone feels it kind of thing. But there is something about having these discussions, and they're not easy. These are not easy. So, you
You
know,
just gave me the final piece of the puzzle I've been asking for,
oh,
Todd.
that's awesome.
Can I share just quickly? I know we're going to wrap it up, but
No, no, you take your time. We can,
oh
we,
my God.
this would be a great conclusion. And do you want to do this again
Yeah,
soon?
this literally come. I'm like, oh my God, you just. I'm really in awe of what you just shared because it puts the final, not the finality, but the wrap up. Because in my outburst this week, I knew there was an energy that was like coming through me that was greater than me that I couldn't fully understand. And it was this urgency. And I go through these frantic moments that I could look manic and probably should be put in a psych ward for a temporary hold because just, and it's like, I feel like we're about to go through I've said this before, a collective psychotic break, a collective near death experience, uh, a collective out of body experience, but it's not in a singular event. It's individualized, and you just walk through it and you just eloquently put words to what is going to happen, because I can feel it, and I'm starting to see people go through these. It may be 12 hours, it might be 24 hours, it maybe 72 hours, whatever, of extreme, like I think I'm going to die, and then all of a sudden everything shifts. And that is what's creating this ripple, and it's happening en masse. And I can see that's the big theme. And I'm just like, oh my God, I get it. Because that's what creates this. I was told, I was told this week that there is a very slow soul braiding that's occurring in this upgrade that we're moving through in those extreme circumstances. But the whole time you were talking, I couldn't help but to go back and relate it to the secret space program and this experience that I had. I've had many, but one in particular happened with someone who's very close to me on a personal level. And it was the first time it's like through these people I'm very close with, I get a look into something I would never have privy to. And I went to sleep one night, and this blue light came into my room, as it does when I'm about to take off. And next thing, I'm in this facility and I see this person that I love dearly in this Stargate machine. I'm like, what am I looking? Like, it was so extreme, and it's always so. I don't really watch movies, so I can't, but it would be Stargate. It looked like a Stargate, but this person was inside it, in the middle of it. And I flipped the reverse button. I didn't understand what I was doing, and they were screaming like in pain. But my higher self that speaks to me was like, you're reversing in these programs, and what happens to us to create the parallel realities is a technology that ripples or fragments our etheric energy body into these other versions. And I was flipping the switch and reversing it so that all the consciousness would collapse and come back into a unified field. And I'm sharing that because I believe that that is what is happening to all of us, whether we're in a program or not. That's what's happening organically, is we are collapsing all time, space, and reality to a singular version.
Yeah. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
No. Well, I never would have thought that retelling would have connected, but it took me right back. And I'll
Alicia's
tell you,
abstract mind goes everywhere, but
well, no, I'll tell you why, because a lot of the coding that came in with the information of this episode, of the previous, 150, 200 episodes, there was a lot of galactic stuff to it. And it wasn't all peaches and cream by any means. But a big part of what came in was the paradoxical nature of the conditioning that we've had. In other words, that the solution or the neutralization lies in bringing both points of the polarity to the same place, right? So what happened to me, this made you made me remember this, was as it was happening, I 200 times before went into this resistance, because
yeah.
for anyone that's ever had a seizure, there's this thing that comes over you and you can't stop it. You can delay it.
Mm.
I curl up in a fetal position, get on a tile floor, and just try to breathe it out. And I've been successful maybe 5 times. The rest of the time, it's going to take you by the ass and do what it wants with you, right? But what ended up coming in was they said, do you understand that in your resistance, you're staying
Mm-hmm.
on one side of the neutral line?
Yeah.
So to actually let it go, in a sense, is resistance. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's happening is, you're going back to what you were saying, what triggered it is you're put in these situations. You're put in a Stargate. You're put in this electrifying field, and they're fucking with you at a physical level of some degree, but the soul's still there. And at
Mm.
some point, the soul goes, "Hey, bring it on." Okay. And it reminds me of the 2000 night uh, episodes I had in the deep astral realms when I first reawoke with the devil and his minions. They used to, sodomize me, rape me, piss on me, beat me, torture me. And I got to the point at the end where I said, and I saw I think I told you this before, I saw I was at the bottom of a well, and I
Mm.
saw my guides at the top of the well. And I'm like, "Hey man, help me out here, man.
You can't throw me a rope.
Do your brother a solid." And they would just look at me like, "You're going to be okay." But anyway, my point is, it was the same kind of liberating moment, which is what I would define that night as. It was very much about liberation in the
Yeah.
grandest sense of the word. And so one day in the second thousand thing of that experience, I said to him, "Hey man, you can't kill me. One
Mm.
thing I do notice that no matter what happens the night before, we wake up the next day. It's like Groundhog Day. And why is this? Because you don't have dominion over me." And
Mhm.
then eventually that parlayed into you are me, they are me up there. There's a reason they're not helping me. There's a reason you're terrorizing me. And we bring this to it. And then you get out of the well and all that. So I feel like that what you just said is really important. And as I was feeling into it, that's what it feels like. It literally, it
Mm.
literally in that state, and this was the most compounded experience of all the 200 episodes or whatever it was, because I reached this point where I'm conscious as a human. I'm laying on my back. I can't, literally, I'm paralyzed, like sleep paralysis. Like
Mm.
you literally can't move. And my human's going, "You're on the street in Mexico. It's dark at night. You're in a seizure. You're defenseless, da 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 da." But it wasn't like an overwhelming fear or loop. And then my soul came in and said, "The fuck can you do, man? Like this is the threshold that we've been offering the entire time."
Oof. Right.
Okay. And I'm telling you, talking about it now, I'm reliving it. And I've talked about it a couple times, but what you were saying about what you had recently come into, to me, it fits. It's the same thing.
It's the
Like,
same thing.
like it's the same
Oh,
thing. It's like literally what I was told and what I understood in that moment was you have physically moved beyond death.
yes.
That's what I got. And so you
Yeah.
hear all these years about, okay, we had, like, you listen to Mateus de Stefano, he'll talk about, yeah, I was part of the ascension cycle in this period and on this planet, on this star system, and this and that. The difference here being that we do it in the body. So that's
Mhm.
always sounded like, oh yeah, that's great light worker talk and all that. But no, I feel like that's what I was exposed to, or maybe that I experienced. I actually experienced death.
Mm.
So if you think about the 2 times out of 200 that I left my body, I could feel it. I was like, "Oh, wow, man, that body's cold, it's dense, and I'm up here and I'm flying around and I'm with the angels here. And wow, this feels like peace and love. And yeah, everything's cool, like near death experiences." This was different. This
Mm.
was both.
Mm.
So at the same time, I'm literally totally transparent, vulnerable, exposed, whatever. At the same time, that feeling, that plasma came in. It was like, "Hey, it's all good, man." And so it was like the split in the opposite, or the paradoxical of it, the opposite way of what you would think. It's like the split. You think, "Oh, I'm feeling that. Well, in that extreme, I'm feeling this." No, it was all right here. And the fact that it went through my body at the time that it did,
Mm.
um, to me, on the precipice of um, getting used to this new thing
Mm.
that we're in now, is I'm not lost on that. So, God, what a
Ah,
transmission. I mean,
no, I'm just,
I'm talking about like just a relief to be able to like just spit it out. Like it almost makes you feel like, the value of sitting on the psychologist's couch and telling them all your problems.
Yeah,
But it's a different thing.
it's
It's not
different.
like that, it's like the space that we have now is this openness. That's what it is. It's an openness. It's a transparency without the handicap, um, or appendage of uh, the human experience and the things that we took on as a result that weren't even real. So, yeah,
Oh, I honor you and I thank you so much, Todd. Like,
I'm just showing up, man. You know, I appreciate what you're saying, and I really see more than ever the synchronicities. I call them physical synchronicities that are happening now. Obviously, you're very connected to me. You're very connected to my partner. Same birthday, for Christ's fucking sake. Give me a break. I mean, like these synchronicities are just incredible. But at this point, it almost feels like I'm in that same moment, um, which to me is a good sign.
mm,
Like, so one part of me says I may not wake up tomorrow, and the other part of me says I'm soul.
yeah,
It's like, yeah,
yeah,
less fear, less fear. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry to keep you for 2 hours and 20 minutes.
No, thank you. That was perfect.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll hit you
Oh,
up if you want to do this again. We can keep going.
please. We have
Yeah.
so much to share.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
See what comes of it. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for witnessing and joining us, because it's not just the two people, it's everybody. It's a collective mindset,
Actually.
whether you're
And
watching it live or not. Yeah. Go ahead.
and if anyone, resonates with this, I would all encourage you just to share with Todd and donate to him
Oh, that's
and
nice of you.
the incredible work that you do because
Mm,
it's not just getting up and showing up when you're raw and feeling like crap and going through the most extreme human experiences. It's your work is all the non-seen stuff that happens behind the scenes that you do share some of it, but a lot of it, I'm sure that you don't, and how much you give to everyone just through these transmissions, but it's all the work that happens behind the scene
mm.
that's a real deal. So I want to encourage everyone to support that work. Thank you. I honor you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Well, have a great day.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Go
With that,
integrate.
mic
That's
drop.
At least we're integrate. At least we're integrating quicker now, so and able to apply it. But yeah, I love you, Alicia, and thank you for the work that you're doing and the inspiration that you provide for me and everybody else. And I look forward to doing this again soon.
Yeah.
I'll reach out and we'll set a date. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. All
Bye,
right. Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.